Well, it's that familiar song with that familiar voice on a Monday night at 8 p.m. Hey, everybody, you're listening to Effin Rager. This is your host, Conner Clifton, joined, as always, by my lovely co-host, Ned Gale.
What's up?
Hey, Ned, how the heck are you?
I'm doing fantastic. Just having myself a Monday. Got a
yeah?
big project done at work. It's out for approval, so I'm feeling good.
You feeling good?
Yeah.
That's great. I've been hearing you talk about this project at work for a bit, so I'm excited for it to be coming to a close.
Me too.
All right, let's get to the meat of it. How was your freaking weekend?
My freaking weekend, I took it easy, my guy.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, Friday night, took it easy. Hung out with Raul. Saturday night,
Friend of the show.
took it easy. Hung out with Raul.
Friend of the show.
Sunday, took it easy. I think Raul came over.
Did he?
Yeah, he came over during the day to get his wallet because he left it Saturday while we were taking it easy.
That's right. That's right. Raul was at our house every day this weekend.
It was great. I loved it. Friend of the show, friend of my heart.
Yeah, and then Saturday, you and I, we went to, what's the 99 Branch Mart?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Yeah, H Mart.
Yeah, H Mart. You made a thing. Tell the people what you made.
Oh, I made some cold dipping noodles.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yep. Yeah, it was very, very good.
Some tasty little bad boys.
Where'd you come up with that recipe, man?
Looked it up.
Oh, wow. Okay. Do you remember where you looked it up?
It's Google, I guess. What are you getting at here?
Well, like
I wanted some cold dipping noodles.
Okay,
so
like
I Googled
most things.
cold dipping noodles, and then I chose the one that looked pretty good. This was a spicy miso.
Huh. That's a lot of food talk. You know, one thing that's happened in this city.
Oh, I see what you're doing.
every single thing I talk about in the beginning, what do you think I'm asking it for? For the segue, my boy.
I thought you just wanted to know about my life.
No.
Sunday I played a church. It was a church recital. I played a church recital, Conner.
Oh, yeah, and you also had a Father's Day. Did you do anything for Father's Day?
Yeah, hung out, went to Skeeter's.
Oh, whoa. What'd you get at Skeeter's?
Breakfast buffet.
Oh, man.
Everything under the dang sun.
I'm always a fan of getting a burger at Skeeter's. Nobody ever... It's not around much. I don't see it very often.
I was surprised there was one in town. It was like right next to the church I play at, and I was like, "Yo, Dad."
Yeah, we're talking, of course, about the Skeeter's Mesquite Bar and Grill, which is a classic after church Sunday meal,
and also not our sponsor yet.
I offered to take my dad into Chinatown, and he said no. He was hitting the links. He had a tea time on Sunday, and it rained. So he didn't get to do anything. And that's what happens when you turn down old Conner Clifton.
Sounds like a hole in none.
Anyway, now I got distracted, so I'm just going to half-ass the segue, which I never do.
Spacing out?
Whataburger happened. Speaking of Whataburger, I bet our guest has some opinions.
I gave you something to work with.
What'd you give
you're
me?
spacing out.
Oh, yeah. I'm spacing out. Damn it. And speaking of spacing out, dude.
Hey, I tried.
Our guest today knows a lot about space and getting out of this world. His name is James Medford. Hey, James. Thanks for coming onto the show.
Thank you. And I just want to say, not a burger. All right?
Man, hot takes from James.
Yeah.
Good. I'm glad we have these hot takes. I think we should... How do you feel about the Whataburger thing?
You know, I haven't actually been to a Whataburger in several years, and I know that makes me a non-person. But I live in a city where there are so many great hamburgers to be had, and I go to Whataburger and I'm like, yeah, okay, Dairy Queen, this is great, thanks, but
You know what? I'm just gonna say it. I agree with you, James.
Yeah,
I don't eat Whataburger and cry like I'm having some religious experience.
Right.
I really enjoy it. I think the sale is great. The whole world now gets to have Whataburger.
Right.
And if they're gonna change the recipe, they're not gonna change it here. It's going to taste bad out of Texas.
Right.
Yeah, they're going to change the recipe in Chicago, and then I'm going to drive up to Chicago to get the cool new recipe that I don't get. Guys, have you been to McDonald's in other states? They have cheese sticks. They take risks.
Can you imagine flying all the way to Chicago and like, so where do you want to eat? It's like, Whataburger, a slice of home.
Freaking kidding me? Yeah, I want a Dr. Pepper shake.
So if you don't eat Whataburger, James, what is it like for you to watch the internet go nuts on something you just don't care about?
Well, that happens all the time. I mean, it's like a daily thing. So I can observe it as some sort of like a sociological kind of thing where this is what the internet cares about today.
They care about their restaurant, their fast food.
They care about this Dairy Queen-esque hamburger that it's maybe just slightly better than In-N-Out, which I've also never had, but I'm assuming that it is probably slightly better than In-N-Out. But I just
In-N-Out's it's just wet.
Okay.
It's just like every time I have it, it's kind of wet.
I'm not the biggest fan because like they have a special style that they do that involves mustard,
right?
And I don't like mustard, and I don't know, it's not for me.
You're no animal. That's fine.
Yeah, I don't know what all the things are called, but Whataburger, I think it's fine.
Yeah, but I was wondering the other day, 3 or 4 years ago, there seemed to be this obsession in Houston over gourmet burgers, and you had Hubcap.
Oh yeah,
places like that where the burger came out and it was like on the Flintstones or something, it was like, and all the gourmet condiments and stuff like that, and that seems to have died off. I don't hear anybody talking about who's got the best burger.
Long since the days of like the just like assortment of aiolis that comes with your burger. Like, here's like 12 aiolis. Like, soak it up, kid.
Yeah, do you want the normal aioli or the spicy aioli?
What is the hot food right now? Like, what is
churros?
They're
anything you can eat in a bowl.
Not hot yet. I know you're pushing the churros.
Churros are coming, man. That's going to be the new snack. Bowl food seemed to be pretty popular.
Yeah.
Poke. Cereal.
Yeah, Poke kind of had its day already, though,
it
right?
Exploded. It's done.
Yeah.
They left that fish out.
I went to I won't name the place because it's one of the places I go to regularly, and I don't want them to think that I'm mad at them or anything.
We're more than happy for you to drag a local business here. That's what the show's about.
Well, I ordered migas there the other day, and migas is one of those things like a standard, And
for a second I was like, a poke place that has migas?
Don't give anybody the idea. That will happen. But they brought the migas out in a bowl. They served it as a bowl dish.
Oh.
And I'm like, no, that is not how you do migas. This is Houston. You don't do migas in a bowl. And the beans were on the bottom, and then you had the other stuff on top. And I was like, I don't know. I used to go to Taco Cabana a lot because it was right next to where we would record the stacks, and I would always get the Cabana bowl, which it's not migas in a bowl, but it's you get your everything that comes with that in a bowl. Right.
And that's one of those things where like the layering always messes it up, and I wish they just had a McFlurry machine where they could just like put it in and it would stir it up before giving, because let's be fair, everyone's just going to turn it into a slop by the time they eat it. Like, that's all I want is the slop.
Now, one quick question. Look, we're all Houston, Texas boys.
Finally, we admit it.
We all know what migas is.
Yeah.
For the people listening at home, could you possibly explain to those knuckleheads what migas is?
So migas is actually the word for eggs, but it's so much more than eggs. You put in, and whoever dreamt this up had been smoking a bowl. Am I right? Anyway, I've been waiting a while to say that.
Like this morning, you woke up, you're like, I got a migas joke. I'm ready for it.
But it's for whatever reason they put fried tortilla chips in it, and so now you got eggs and fried tortilla chips, and beans and some other stuff, and it really is pretty much just something somebody dreamt up at 2 a.m.
The chips are what truly make it.
Yeah,
and that's with any meal. Like, I love adding just like a little bit of crunchy.
Right.
So something that already comes with the crunchy. Are you joking?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll have to try migas.
You should.
Yes.
Yeah, I just don't like beans.
That would generally in a ordinary place, the beans would be separate from the migas. This is just at this one place where it was all in one bowl.
It was like a bean platform.
It was a platform. Yeah, right.
What if the migas was just so hot that the plate it came on started caving in and it became a bowl?
No.
Okay.
No, that's
all right. So whatever this restaurant is, you messed up.
Yeah, that's right.
You blew it.
No amount of science could save you.
Right.
All right. Let's get into the heart of what this show is about. Partying. James.
Yes.
Can you tell us?
Raging.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit? Do you remember your first party?
Okay, so in high school, I was not a partier.
Okay.
I was not a big partier. When I was working for Six Flags over Texas up in Arlington, and so that was my social life was working on weekends and working late at night, and so I was not one of the kids going to sneaking out of the house and going someplace else where the cops show up, and all that sort of thing. So I was not part of that scene in high school. It really wasn't until I got to college to Rice. And there's my plug. And the first week at Rice, it was freshman orientation week. The freshmen getting introduced to life at Rice, and they had this party near the end of the week. And to set this up, the drinking age in the state of Texas was 18 until September 1st, 1981, the beginning of my freshman year at Rice. So everybody was drinking up to September 1st, knowing that they were about to become, people who were already legal were about to
are
go.
people like stocking up?
Yeah, it was more or less. But there was one party where they served cold duck. Cold.
What'd you say?
Duck. the most horrible thing that you can put in your mouth. It's a sparkling wine, but it's vile. And it was a hot part. It was hot, and all that. And it's kind of a sweet, a nasty mess.
Everything
get a
about
hot
this
cold duck?
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Everything about this sounds terrible.
It was, and so my first real hangover from drinking came from drinking cold duck. The next morning, we all had to pile onto an unair-conditioned school bus to go to Galveston for a beach trip.
Oh God,
Had to.
It was a had to scenario, and there was a keg on the bus, and you could smell the staleness of the beer from the keg. When you, so that was my first party. And, but I really did not learn the notion of going to parties and all that until after I was off at college. And of course, at that point, I'm 250 miles away from home, and so it's not like I'm having to sneak out, my house and that sort of thing. So I didn't have that whole culture of the.
It's not an exciting culture, I'll tell you. I only snuck out a few times in high school.
Right.
0 times if you're listening, Mom.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's nothing great about it. Maria's asking what college you were in.
Hanson College, HFH. Thank you very much. Now that Maria has asked, I'm curious if she went to Rice and what college she was in.
She went to Rice, and she was into college for dumb nerds.
Yeah. I think they called her college Cold Duck.
Yeah. Well, since Maria's listening, I will tell her that no, I did not run with Baker 13. And for those of you who are listening who don't know what I'm talking about, that's a group at Rice that on the 13th of every month, they strip down to their birthday suit and then cover themselves in shaving cream and run all over the campus. And
Once a month?
Once a month, 13th of every month.
It's a waste of shaving cream.
Yeah, well, it's not about the shaving cream.
Oh man,
It never is.
Now I see why they felt so entitled to crap all over U of H.
Yes.
Where we never did such cool things as that.
That's right.
Okay,
Well,
there's a delay when Maria responds, but she said, "Boo, okay, well, actually, LOL." And
Okay,
there's
so-
some more.
Did she go to Baker?
no.
Did you ever do Baker Feast?
I did not do Baker Feast.
And what's Baker Feast?
Okay, Baker Feast doesn't. From what I hear, they don't do it anymore for various reasons. It was kind of problematic.
Something at Rice being problematic.
Well,
College in the 60s.
They don't have a lot of that going around.
Baker College has a Shakespeare Fest every spring, and they put on one of Shakespeare's plays and all that. And so there was a tradition where after it was, they had completed production, all that, they would have a big feast in the Baker Commons, which is like this classic old school dining hall. If you've ever been inside, it's really a very cool building. But they would have this big feast, and then supposedly at the end, they would turn out all the lights. The windows were blacked out. They turned out all the lights, and it was a free-for-all.
For cleaning the dishes?
Yes.
That's ridiculous.
I just imagine the
so
cops.
hard.
Yeah.
The cops just like shoot all the lights. I was like, "All right, boys, it's purge time."
So I never, because I was never involved in the Baker Shakespeare Fest. I didn't get to do the feast, but the stories were interesting. And,
The DA felt the same way.
Yes, they did. And I think it did get a little problematic, and that's why they had to quit doing it. But
Is this the same baker that shares the name with the Baker Institute at Rice?
Yeah, well, yeah. The original baker was named for Captain James Baker, who was one of the founding trustees of Rice Institute, as it was known back in the day. Mm-hmm. His grandson, James Baker, who was Secretary of State under the first George Bush. The Baker Institute is named for him. So, yeah, they're related.
Okay.
But, the Baker families had a long association with Rice.
Now, there are a lot of parties associated with Rice that I've heard of. I know Beer Bike.
Beer Bike's the one I've done.
Okay. Oh, okay. Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, if you've done it, then it must be way more problematic than Rice.
Yeah.
So what is Beer Bike?
So Beer Bike, they've been doing that since the 50s. And when the college system was formed, and all of a sudden you had these 8 colleges that were, well, I guess it wasn't 8 back then. Anyway, however many there were, they needed some big competition that they could all participate in every year, just sort of like generate the college spirit and create a new tradition. So what they decided to do was this race where you would have, each college would have 10 bikers and 10 beer chuggers. And it was a relay.
Okay.
The race would start where one beer chugger from each college would chug a beer as quickly as they could, and when they were finished, their biker could take off and go. It was like a 2-mile route, whatever it was. When they got back, the next chugger could then chug.
Yeah.
And then when they were done, the next biker would go, so on and so forth until all 10 of each had gone.
Until they were all dead.
Yes. There were iron people who would bike early in the race and then chug later in the race. They would do both, but you didn't chug first and then bike because that got ugly.
Yeah, I bet.
So, but from what I hear, because of the drinking age being 21 and things like that, they generally don't chug beer anymore. It's just water.
When I was there, it was water.
Right.
Yeah.
Which why don't we just call it water bike and get it over with? But
they call it water bike, but they do wake you up at 7 a.m.
Yes,
to
they
chug
do.
beer.
Yeah.
That was one of my earliest college experiences. Right. I hadn't seen a friend in a while who was going to Rice. He's
right.
like, "Hey," I saw him at a show. And he's like, "Hey, come over after the show. Stay over. We're doing beer bike in the morning." He's
right.
like, "You told me about that years ago. I'd love to."
Yeah.
And then I fall asleep at 1 a.m. Wake up at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
I think I volume puked at 9 a.m. I was like, "This is
what's
terrible."
volume puke?
Just too much beer.
Yeah.
Oh.
But when I was
just
there,
loudly puking.
there were. Today they have ambulances on standby and all that because the bikers are actually, they're riding a real race. They're riding pretty fast, and you occasionally have wipeouts. But when I was there, they didn't have ambulances on standby. It was a little bit more freeform, and I watched people faceplant into the.
They expected you to catapult yourself to the hospital.
You guys are smart. Build a trebuchet.
That's right, trebuchet.
Are there any other cool party or ceremonies from Rice that you can tell us, or are they going to cut out your tongue at the end of the night?
Well,
and what ceremony is that?
Yeah, that would be because we want to go.
Yeah, we've been trying to end this show. How can we get our tongues chopped?
Yeah, let's just bring on someone connected with the Illuminati, have them share all their secrets.
Night of Decadence. NOD.
I've heard a little bit about Night of Decadence.
Yeah. So Night of Decadence they've been doing at least since the 70s. And it's Weiss College, which was kind of, we always had the reputation of being the animal house at Rice when I was there. I'm not sure about it now. But it's the closest Saturday to Halloween. And the point of the party is to come dressed as decadently, which usually means wearing as little as you can get away with. And yeah,
decadent. I thought you said naked.
Anyway, that's the nudes for today. Anyway, no, so I can tell you some things that we can say on the radio. One guy showed up one year wearing nothing but a Dannon yogurt cup.
On his head.
Yes. And another guy showed up wearing nothing but a uncooked chicken that he bought at the grocery store.
Mercy, I almost used to swear.
Yeah. Go ahead. Keep on calling U of H Cougar High. Y'all are the dumbasses who put chickens on your genitals.
So, yeah, there was a they would build this large paper mache. I think I can say phallus on the air.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You can say wiener if you want.
Okay, I like phallus better.
We love that word.
They built this large paper mache phallus that the punch would actually pour through the end of it, and that's
kind of fun.
And my freshman year at Rice, we played A&M at home. We used to play A&M every year because the Southwest Conference was the thing back then. And so somehow the guys at Weiss managed to sneak this phallus into the football stadium I've heard the story behind how they did it, and I'm not sure it's true, but they got in with it, and then when the
Wait, how big is this? Like foot by foot? Would you guess
6 feet long-ish?
Okay.
That neighborhood.
And
yeah,
that's pretty average.
And it was pretty.
Shut the hell up. Oh my God.
Sorry.
I'm so glad. I'm so glad I got to be here for the end of the show. Well, so it was A&M, of course, and so this is my freshman year. This is my early impression of Rice. So the Aggie band, of course, is on the field at halftime, and it's like marching and all that. And these guys were holding it up and bouncing it up and down to the beat of the music.
I do like that.
Yeah, yeah.
A&M definitely has a stick up their butt about stuff like that.
Yeah.
So cool. All right.
Yeah, that happened. But Night of Decadence, I think they had to take measures to make it a little less problematic too over the time. Things got a little out of hand. And
Now it's called the Night of Decency.
Yes. They actually had a counterparty that was called Night of Innocence. And they would show a Disney movie and you would have milk and cookies.
According to Maria, she said, my freshman year, some South College kids, Will Rice, built a huge concrete phallus in the entry port of Martell.
I guess Martell's the college that Maria went to.
Okay. So she couldn't get in.
Well, Maria, Martell's not a college; it's a dorm.
Ooh! Ooh! You gonna take that?
You idiot! I lived in a dorm. Maple Hall. That's for you UNT heads out there.
Yeah.
Denton Knights.
So let's start moving along in your party history here. Then, what did you graduate from Rice with?
BS in mechanical engineering.
And where did you go after that?
I went to a job at NASA down in Clear Lake from there.
Clear NASA.
Yeah.
Houston's own space program.
Yes, that one and the same.
Yeah, in Clear Lake, birthplace of Ned Gale.
No one cares.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
The other rocket of Houston.
Okay, so
wait, did you live in Clear Lake while you were down there?
For like the first 5 years.
Where in Clear Lake did you live?
So on El Dorado, right by the freeway.
Hell yeah! I grew up El Dorado and El Camino, like right there. Yeah,
sure. I drove through that intersection.
Right next to Andrea Yates, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was like a street down from my house when it happened.
Right. Yeah.
It's crazy.
I used to take a shortcut to get to work, and I went right by that house. And it was like, wow. Anyway.
Do y'all remember the astronaut the diaper astronaut?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I went to school with her son.
Whoa. What was he like?
He was nice.
Okay.
Yeah. He seemed bummed for a bit.
Right.
He was a really sweet kid. I felt bad for him.
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a lot that happened in Clear Lake. My 1 year of school, can't remember which, the Hilton Hotel right there at the corner of Nass Road 1.
Yeah.
The lady ran over her husband a couple times.
Yeah, she was a dentist.
Yeah.
And she
was she the husband was definitely an orthodontist, because one of my friends is supposed to get his braces off, and he's like,
never mind.
Orthodontist is dead, flat as a pancake. Can't get my braces off.
Crooked teeth for life.
Yeah, he still has them on, man. Tried to get the lady to run over his teeth. No,
yeah. No, I remember that. We had one was a dentist, one was I don't remember exactly, but yeah, she was jealous and ran him over.
Well, you know how she got caught, right?
No.
So she hired a private investigator to follow her husband. And the guy's like following the husband, and he's taking pictures, and then she starts running over, and he's like, "Ooh, what a hot shot!" Like, takes all those pictures of her killing her husband. He's like, "Man, did some good investigating here. Now to the feds." So she literally hired the person who caught her.
Right.
Like,
that explains why she was making poses for the camera every time, in every photo.
She was doing the duck face well before it was popular.
Yeah, that's the face you make when you murder someone. Did you know that?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So what are the things that you did at NASA?
So when I started out in the summer of '85, the space shuttle was what NASA was doing. That was the first shuttle launch had been in '81. So by '85 they had like, I don't know, maybe a little shy of 20 shuttle flights.
Okay.
And so I hired on in a period when they were trying to pick up the pace a bit, have lots more shuttle launches every year. They had a whole lot of things planned for '86, '87, '88. And so I hired on when they needed to get new flight controllers for mission control trained. And so I coming in straight out of Rice, they said, okay, you're gonna go directly into training to be a mission control flight controller, and in 6 months you'll get certified for your first position, which will be a very low level position and won't be very responsible, but you sort of have to work your way up the ladder. And so that was how I started out, was going into training.
Crap, they threw you right in.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Now, and a lot of it, the early days, it was a lot of really tedious studying and reading training manuals and things like that were pretty dry. But at the same time, you got to go sit in mission control during simulations and watch somebody do the job that you're going to be doing. It's like on the job training. So there was that mix of tedium and like, wow, I'm in mission control and there's the astronauts. That's really
That's incredible.
So,
that's so awesome.
And what was NASA's Night of Decadence like?
That's when they let all the alien babes out of holding.
They would wait for a solar eclipse. And they're like, the lights are out. It's our time to act.
I could talk about it, but that's when the knock would come at the
door. One knock. That's all you need.
So one of the things that I'm very much into space race history, and so every now and then I'll find something, or Ned will send me something that's just different mission controls, either in the Soviet Union or oh crap! How many? There are only so many countries with different space programs.
China.
Does Japan have one?
Japan has one. Right. Okay. Yeah. There's one in France. It's the European Space Agency.
Okay.
So
have you had opportunities to see mission control rooms in different countries?
Yeah, in Moscow.
Ooh.
Yeah. That was cool. I got
Soviet control rooms have a look.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that.
They do.
Yeah.
And
that's incredible.
That was the first time I walked into the one in Moscow. I walked in, I thought, man, this looks like it's from the 60s. It probably was from the 60s. Yeah. It was old technology. But one of my favorite stories, I was sitting in their main flight control room there in Moscow, and because NASA had its own kind of place, its own console there, because we were in a joint venture with them, and when
you got there, it was just like Fisher Price toys, like, you go play over there.
It felt that way sometimes. But I was sitting there one day, and I felt something rub up against my leg, and I looked down. There was a cat in their main flight control room, and they said, they have a real problem with rodents there, so they keep cats.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, that's our boss. Yeah.
They did some experiments in the 60s they don't like to talk about.
That was our boss.
That's right. Yeah.
So how did you end up over there? That's so insane.
It was crazy. It was a weird set of circumstances, but in the mid-90s, after NASA and the Russians announced that we were going to build a space station together.
The mid-90s, so it's not just a cool movie.
No, that's right. Yeah. No. So they said, okay, we're gonna build a space station together, but we need to learn how to work together first. And the way to do it was they had their what's funny about that?
I'm just imagining it's like, well, we're going to have to learn to figure this one out. And cue working together, learning montage.
There's a montage,
Hey, if there's one thing that'll bring the Soviets and America together, it's space.
Yeah. So because back then they had their old Mir space station that was it had been in orbit for a long time, and so NASA and the Russians came to this agreement where they said, okay, we will fly the space shuttle to Mir and dock with it, and then we'll use this shuttle to deliver a new crew of cosmonauts and an American astronaut every few months. And then we'll do that for 2 or 3 years, and that way we'll kind of learn, by doing those things, we'll kind of learn how our cultures are different and how we deal with work with astronauts and cosmonauts and all of that. And so after they did that for a couple of years, starting in '95, they had some pretty serious problems with Mir. There were a lot of breakdowns, and NASA was getting concerned about the safety of Mir. Is this really still a safe space station to put an American astronaut on? And so they decided to start sending somebody over for like 2-month-long rotations, just to kind of, I don't want to say be a spy, because the Russians knew what we were there for, but it was just sort of to watch how they deal with problems on a day-to-day basis, and tell the very concerned managers back in Houston, here's what they're doing today. It's, they're fixing this pump because this other pump broke, and that kind of thing. And so I was the first person that got to go do that.
Whoa. Wait. Cool. You were in Mir space station?
No, it was not in the space station.
Oh,
no,
okay,
I was in Moscow in their mission control center.
Gotcha.
And that the first time I went was May of '97. And then there were 2 other people who did it. We just took turns going for a couple of months at a time, and we did that over a period of a year.
That's
so,
crazy.
Yeah.
So you went up like it was like one American at a time, just kind of
And
there with the clipboard, like, okay, well,
yeah.
is that seriously broken or just sort of broken?
That's exactly what we were there to do, is go, okay, we just heard the cosmonauts say that this thing that generates oxygen just shut down. Should I be concerned about this? And they would say, no, because we got another one that's a backup and we're going to turn it on. I was like, okay,
yeah,
fine.
it's a plant.
That's right, yeah.
we just send it up there. It'll be fine.
Yeah. So,
don't you have an Archie comic to read? Quit asking us questions. Yeah.
Go play Mario game or something. Get out of my face.
You got a mix of reactions from the Russians, because there were some old school ones that remembered the Soviet era, and they were like, "Why are these Americans in our mission control and all that?" And then,
Were you like accepted like when you came over? Or was, okay.
The thing about of course they had been told that NASA was going to send somebody over to do that, and so they understood why I was there and what the point of it, and that it was kind of we weren't there to spy, we were there just to understand what they were doing. And the thing with the Russians, it's a cultural thing, but it takes some time to build like a little trust with them, and so you learn the first time you work with a particular Russian, it's not necessarily going to be all friendly, good to see you and all that, but within 2 or 3 months you find that all of a sudden they're smiling and inviting you to go hang out at their dacha for the weekend and that kind of thing. All of a sudden you're like, wow, I've made a friend here.
That rules.
I definitely do want to ask about that. So how did the Russians party?
Wow. They have a national holiday just about every other day, and national holidays are pretty much an excuse to drink a lot of vodka.
Okay.
Now, I haven't been there since 2003, and things may have changed, but they would bring vodka to the office to work, and at the end of the day, usually around 4 p.m, they would start doing toasts to celebrate whatever the day was.
No wonder they're like, the oxygen thing's fine.
What we learned was that you do not attempt to keep up with the Russians when they're doing toast.
God.
You can't. You may not. They are just genetically built to drink vodka better than we are, and so I saw other Americans attempt to keep up, and they had to be carried out. But I didn't, I would do a few, and then like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah.
Na zdrowie. And but no, and the cool thing is a lot of them do have dachas, these little country homes that they keep outside of Moscow. And if they invite you to come spend a weekend with them, that's like they said, okay, we accept you. We're going to have you come spend a weekend with them. You expect to drink a lot and all that, and you may be using an outdoor toilet, but it's it's sort of a thing. Like,
hey, I do that if I've been drinking a lot, no matter where I am.
Right, yeah.
I'm going outside.
Whether anyone else wants them to or not.
Right, yeah.
Okay, did you ever fall into any kind of tricky situations while partying in Russia?
Maybe not while partying. One thing that you learned when you went out in Moscow is always have your passport and your visa and any other, the thing that shows where you're staying, because any random police officer can stop you and ask you for your identification. And if you don't have it, they'll either take you in or you bribe them. And usually the bribe was the easier way to get out. One day I was out in Moscow, and I forget how this happened. I think that all my documents were in a different coat, and I forgot.
Yeah.
And I'm in one of the subway stations. The metro in Moscow is a great. I love the subway there. But I was in a station, and I hear a very young Russian police officer point at me and go, "Documenty," means your documents. I'm sure I didn't say that right, but anyway, something like that.
I'm impressed.
Yeah. But anyway, as he said it, I realized that I didn't have them on me. I thought, oh no, they're in my other coat. And it was one of those moments where I didn't know what to do. And I turned to him and I pretended to be deaf. I pointed at my ears, and for whatever reason, what little Italian I knew came up, and I went, "Scusi?" And the guy looked at me and he just went and waved me on. It worked My heart beat. I mean, I was like, blah, 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 blah.
This is when the knock comes.
Well, we finally got him.
To this day, I have a nightmare where I'm in Moscow and I'm way out in the city somewhere, and I don't have anything on me, no papers, no money, nothing, and I don't know what I'm
just
gonna
that
do.
raw chicken.
That's
the only thing you got.
Just a Dan and yogurt cup.
That's gotten me out of a lot of fixes.
Was the language barrier a big thing over there?
Yeah, because we could take Russian language classes at work, and I got to where I could read the signs in Moscow. So, like on the subway, I could read the signs and all that. I couldn't carry on a conversation. We had interpreters at work.
Okay.
Right. I could ask for directions in the city and that sort of thing. But once anybody tried to have a conversation with me, I was lost. There was just no way. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Did you ever end up did a Russian ever come over to mission control here in NASA, and did you ever end up having to take them out, or?
Yeah. It was and especially after the International Space Station started flying, we had an agreement where we would have X number of people in Moscow all the time, and they would have the same amount in Houston.
Yeah,
they were called consultant groups essentially, and so that we would make an effort to take them out to like a real barbecue out in the country or something like that. Try to do those kinds of things.
Take them over to boondoggles.
Yeah. No.
This is Buffalo Wild Wings. Welcome to America.
And we didn't do that. No. And the point wasn't to try to get them drunk or anything like that. We were
show them the culture.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But that was and particularly the ones who we had worked with in Moscow. A lot of them would come to Houston, and so you already sort of had this established relationship with them. So you take them out. And
was there anything that mystified them about Houston or anything? Were they like blown away by the size of the cows or something like that? I think cows over there, but
I think they
very, very small. They fit in your pocket.
I think they were sort of stunned that we didn't have any kind of decent public transportation.
If it makes it feel better, so are we.
Right,
We're also stunned.
Yeah. I mean, they did drive. They would rent cars and drive, but from everything I heard, you did not want to be in a car that a Russian was driving in Houston because they were just like, yeah, all right, going fast.
I keep thinking that American culture is so different from Russian culture, and not only that, but Texas culture is very different from the rest of American culture.
Yeah.
What
did they think about Whataburger?
I just didn't take him there.
You guys should sell this place.
That's right. Sell this to Northern Conglomerate.
Was there anything specific to Texas that they wanted to participate in? Because I'll have some people from just different states come into Texas like, I want a cowboy hat and boots. I'm like, we don't all wear those.
Right. I mean, I never took them to rodeo or anything like that, but I heard that a lot of people would take them to rodeo just so they could see the culture.
Man.
Yeah, I think that was kind of the big thing. But I think they also figured out, especially in Clear Lake, they figured out pretty quick that their notions of Texas culture really weren't, all that carried out in Houston suburbia.
Did they get any bayou exposure? I feel like you got Armin Bayou right there next to NASA.
I don't know.
I feel like they should have seen an alligator. That would have been good for them.
I would never even occur to me to do that. But yeah, they did go to Galveston a lot because going to a place where the water was warm at the beach and all that. They could actually go swim and not
freeze,
not have an arm fall off.
Do you keep in touch with anyone from Russia?
No, I really haven't, and to my regret, because I made some good friends in Moscow. And but after the last time I went was 2003, and I moved on to other things, and so there just wasn't really any good way to keep up. But there were some pretty amazing people over there, and one thing that I remember, and I hadn't told you this before, but I don't know if you remember in 2003. NASA lost one of the space shuttles, Columbia, when it had been in orbit for, 2 weeks. And when they were coming back, it disintegrated when it was at the hottest part of the reentry, and it was because there was damage to the structure, and so we lost 7 astronauts. I was in Moscow when that happened.
Whoa.
And I was actually at the Russian Mission Control Center when it happened, because there was something going on that day, and we had to be there for it. Completely unconnected to the shuttle, but still. And so I'm there, and I get a call from Houston. They said, we just lost the shuttle. It disintegrated during reentry, and we need you to tell the Russians.
Ooh.
And I'm like, oh wow, are you kidding me?
Boy.
Yeah, and because and I said, they're busy right now. They were in the middle of doing something with space station. They had about another 10 minutes before they were finished. I said, I'll let them finish, and I'll go tell them. They said, no, tell them now, because we're afraid they're going to say something to the space station crew.
Yeah.
That they're going to get the word somehow, and they're going to say something. We need you to go tell them, don't say anything to the space station crew, because Houston's going to tell them on a private line.
Right.
And, and so 10 minutes later, I grabbed an interpreter, and I told him, I thought, I grew up with the Cold War, and here I am in Moscow having to tell the Russians, we just lost a space shuttle and their crew. And the rest of the day, there was like early evening at that point in Moscow, and for the rest of the evening, there was a steady stream of Russians coming to our room to pay their condolences. And that, to me, was probably
so
like
surreal.
Yeah, it was surreal, and it was sort of, and again, growing up with the Cold War, it was a very strange experience to be sitting there and having them come in and say, we're so sorry to hear what's happened.
Yeah.
It's like, wow. So yeah, probably the most and it's a tragedy, but of all the experiences I had in Moscow, that was probably the one that stood out.
Yeah,
for me
yeah.
more than anything.
Imagine. That's
Now, I know I said it
historic.
Right.
I said it earlier as a joke, but do you think that like the pursuit of science helped y'all see each other as human beings in any way?
Well,
shape, or
I
form?
think so. Yeah. I mean, the reason that we originally, I say we, people who make way more money than I do, decided that we would enter into a cooperative agreement with the Russians was that after the Cold War ended, the Soviet space program all of a sudden lost its I mean, they had almost a blank check all those years, and now the Soviets, the system has disappeared, and I think our intelligence services got word that some of the Russian rocket scientists were going to certain third world countries to help them build intercontinental ballistic missiles, and we said, how do we make that stop?
Yeah.
And we went to them and said, listen, if we were to enter into a joint agreement with y'all and build a new space station, could you keep your people at home working on that? And they said, yeah, we can.
Yeah.
So
we love space.
Yeah, that's right. And so it wasn't for purely scientific reasons that it happened, but it was, I think, in the end, that was the beneficiary.
Yeah.
And there were times when there were some conflicts. The Russians were very proud; they'd had their own space program all those years. We'd had our own all those years, and there were times, especially early on, when it felt like everything was going to fall apart. And there's a lot of egos involved and all
I can
that.
only imagine.
But a lot of that was way up high up in the administrative level of things. On our level, what we were doing, we were all just getting along great.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like mission control, everyone's kind of got the same idea.
Right.
It's like, keep it up.
Right. Yeah. We're all trying to do the same thing here, and we understand that we each have our own way of doing things, but we better figure out how to make it work, because you've got astronauts up there right now and cosmonauts, and we better find a way to make this thing work. So
now, you said you did that up until 2003.
Right.
What did you do after that?
So after 2003, I came back and started working on a variety of projects having to do with this new. I call it new. It's not new anymore, but they were starting to. Well, no, I'm going to back up a little bit, because when I came back, NASA had decided to try to go back to the moon, and that was going to be called the Constellation Program. It was going to the moon and then doing other things later, but the first big goal was going to the moon. And so I worked on that up until what it must have been 2010, because it got canceled for budgetary reasons.
Yeah.
It was too big, too expensive. And so I did that till 2010, and then after that, powers that be decided that we needed to redesign mission control in Houston. It was based on a lot of technology that was outdated, and so that became what was known as the MCC 21 project, 21st Century. And so I got involved in that for the next few years until late 2012, when they said, we're going to let some people retire early if they want to. And I'm like, I'm in. Yeah, I can do that.
I'm so tired.
Right. Yeah.
Been traveling.
So I never really worked in mission control again after that. It was office work, but it was all towards future projects that were and the MCC 21 that's been in place now for a few years. After I retired, they finished that up and are using it now, and I've seen photos and it looks really cool.
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it does look 21st century. So.
Without, I mean, you can if you want to. I'm not going to politicize this, but how do you feel about the future of the American space program and like things that are being tossed around.
Yeah, tough call. Honestly,
the Space Force, and then going back to the moon, going to Mars.
Yeah.
Is the moon part of Mars?
Right. Yeah. I'll go with the tough one, Mars. The difference between going to the moon and going to Mars is huge.
Yeah.
And I think it's a great. I mean, wouldn't it be great to see people go to Mars? But I think that the difficulties in getting there are going to be huge. And if you know, when Apollo 13 was halfway to the moon, they were able to turn around and get back to Earth, and things are fine because the moon relative to Mars is not that far away. Going to Mars, if you have a problem halfway there, things may not turn out that way. And maybe that's a risk everybody's ready to accept. But the cost on top of that is, I just think it's going to be extraordinary. And I don't like to be pessimistic, but I don't see it happening in my lifetime.
Okay.
The moon, maybe. But again, when, it costs money.
Yeah.
And, 2 or 3 years down the road when it starts, I'm not trying to be negative here, but I think you have to be realistic and say, is this really going to happen? Or are we just throwing it out there to say, hey, we're going to go to the moon again?
Get people pumped.
Right,
Yeah.
get people pumped, which, that's fine in and of itself. But I don't know. That's a tough call. I would love to see us go back to the moon. I don't know.
You got some unfinished business.
Yeah,
up there.
that's right. Yeah, that's right. I left some things behind. I need them back.
I mean, is this the moon landing we should film? Should we just not?
That's right. That's right.
Like, all of them are real up until this one, right?
Yeah,
This
yeah.
one we filmed.
Yeah.
People have given us some good ideas on how to do it. Plenty of
Right. Yeah.
Interesting conversations about space. Clearly that was amazing. But now I want to talk a little bit about your retirement.
Yes.
We're coming up on the end of the show here,
Okay.
but I want to ask, how are you enjoying partying as a retired man?
Well,
Because we see you
Yeah.
everywhere.
Yeah, we
that's
know
right,
you
yeah.
because and I think I was telling you or Cody the other day. That's like, you're at a good show if James is there.
That's right. Yeah,
Because you go to every
Yeah.
great show. Like it's
and it's
awesome.
every once in a while somebody will post a video from a show, and you see my head up in the front with my camera taking
always with
pictures.
the camera. I can sincerely say thanks to you. Like, most of the Houston art scene is documented, and
thank
I really appreciate that.
Oh,
yeah.
it's nice to hear. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's I didn't start out to do this. I bought a camera a few years ago, and I like to go to see shows of various types, and I thought, well, it'd be fun just to learn how to use my camera.
Yeah.
And when I'm there, and I realized over time that people were telling me I don't have any photos of myself when I'm performing in a band or in improv or whatever that, and they're like, thank you for at least taking pictures of me so I can see what I look like, And,
Yeah.
And it's fun. I mean, you can two passions, doing photography and going out to see live bands and comedy and whatever else. I can do them all at the same time.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why not? So yeah.
It's fantastic. I don't think there'd be pictures of outside skin without you.
It's just, yeah. But going to see live bands in particular really is fun because it's, most people just show up with their phone and they'll take that one kind of grainy photo that's all blurry and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so much fun to be able to get, it's almost like you've got permission to get close when you got that camera and the people in the band know you. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be pretty close. And,
Yeah.
get that picture with the sweat running down your face and all that. And so, and it's gotten me into a couple of music videos. So that's,
Oh yeah, you were just in a music video,
Yes.
Darwin's Finches.
Darwin's Finches, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. They put out a call on Facebook. They said, we need people to play the following roles in our music video, and the first one they listed was astronaut, and I jumped on that.
Hell yeah.
So you seem very, very in touch with the cool shows that are happening in Houston. Are there any up and coming acts that you just like really want people to pay attention to or notice?
Oh, let's see. Wow. Now I'm going to have to. Yeah.
It could run the gamut. It could
Yeah.
be poetry, music, comedy,
Yeah.
stage shows that turn into radio shows.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
I don't know.
I don't know any of those. No, sorry. So I will put in a plug for Flower Graves.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they and I am going to be in their upcoming music videos.
Wait a second. The plugs come at the end.
That's right. Sorry, man. I could have to throw that in. But truly, I've been watching. I started going to see Mikey and the Drags back a few years ago, and then that broke up, and Mikey formed Flower Graves, and it has been a real treat to watch them perform. And it's always a shame when they play weeknights somewhere and there's 20 people in the crowd because it's just tough. But they've got a album release coming up July the 12th, and that is on a Saturday night. And
I will be there.
That is
I'm
going to be a
stoked.
fun night. I think the opening acts are going to be fun too. So, all right, Flower Graves, that's a plug.
No, Mikey's the best. I love him so much. He
yeah.
does incredible things
Right,
for the
yeah,
scene,
so-
like outside of just playing great music.
Yeah.
Like he's
Yeah.
the best.
yeah, absolutely.
Well, speaking of plugs, here we go. Oh, crap. Hang on.
Wow, you should plug your phone in.
Shut the hell up.
There it is.
Hang on. I'm starting this over. No, I'm
The
doing...
radio show?
No, I'm starting to plug song over. Hey!
There it is.
Flawless.
There it
I'm going
is.
to edit it out. Who cares?
Yeah, right.
What musicians do you like? Connor?
I want a new plug. Tell us what's going on. Tell me all the stuff you're doing after I sing this song. All right, James.
Okay,
Can
so
you believe you're seeing this live now?
if watching it from home, you don't really get a sense of the.
Yeah, this is
room's
how
a
the
lot
sausage
smaller.
is made.
Wow, this is great. I'm just glad I got to do this. So let's see. For every day this week and in perpetuity, I'll be appearing at Black Hole Coffee House. Be reading a book or something.
Anytime it rains, you can catch him at Grand Prize.
Yes, exactly.
Getting stuck. Yeah.
What are you reading right now?
Poison Girl. Okay, right now, that's a good book. John Doe from X. And another guy who's a journalist just put out a book about the LA punk scene from '82 to '87.
Ooh.
It's a lot of fun. It's if you're familiar with the music of that period, it's a good read. Let's see. I'm about to read a new book by Neil Stephenson. I can't think of the name of it off the top of my head, but he's doing a reading tomorrow night.
Oh, nice.
Joe Bryce's books, and Tracy Tebow have got him coming to town. And
Is
he's
it
gonna
another
read.
cyberpunk book?
I think it's sort of. There's probably some cyberpunk involved, but it's Neil Stephenson. It's 1,000 pages long. It'll be really interesting. So yeah, Mother Plugs. Yeah. Flower Graves video coming out. I will be an astronaut in that. And
You're an astronaut in both these
I'm
videos?
an astronaut. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Is it your outfit that you're bringing both times?
Yes.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Are you
Hell
telling me that the bands of Houston are creating
Yes.
a shared universe
Yes.
throughout their music videos?
See, that's the plan, and I'm putting that out here right now.
Whoa.
Anybody listening in who is in a band in Houston,
Matt, are you listening?
Yes.
Swimwear Department needs a space song.
next time you do a video, I will be your astronaut. And
Can I be the cosmonaut? Just throwing that out there.
you knock yourself out. Yeah.
And he means that literally. He wants you to
Yes, I
knock
do.
yourself out.
Yes.
America rules.
Right.
All right. Do you have any other projects?
I think that's it for now.
Where can we see your photography? Where can we?
Generally I post on Facebook. I don't do it on
Okay.
Instagram. So if people want to go to my Facebook page and just scroll down, and you'll find all kinds of good stuff. I also took some photos. This was fun. I took photos of the Flower Graves video shoot, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Sergio from Buxton was the director, and
nice.
it's going to be a very cool
I feel like I saw a few of those.
You probably did. It was on
Okay.
Facebook. Yeah. So, yep.
All right,
I can't
Ned,
wait. That's gonna be great.
what do you have to plug?
As always, every Thursday, you can come to Secret Group at 8 p.m. and see Futile Society Improv do a sweet show. And also tomorrow, my other podcast, Honey, I Shrunk the Binge, is coming back.
Hell yeah.
And we'll have new episodes every Tuesday until we get tired of each other. So look forward to that.
you have
The
a show
first
on Friday,
episode
don't
is
you?
Out of this world. Oh, yes, thank you. Swimmer Department will be playing at Darwin's Pub with Los Dientes.
Yeah.
Teeth,
Los
yeah.
Dientos.
We looked that up. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll be playing with them at Darwin's. It's a
Dientos?
late show, so go do your normal Friday stuff and then stop by Darwin's at the end. I think we play at like 11:30.
Awesome.
Yeah. What about you?
Hey, Hosewater, Texas is coming back. Y'all come on down
Hell
to
yeah.
have the floor July 13th, 8 p.m. at the Secret Group in the box. It's going to be $5. Come on out. Doing that show again?
That's gonna be Flower Graves on one night, and then that the next night. That's gonna be a great weekend.
It will be a very fun weekend. I am looking forward to it. Come on out to that. And hey, just for funsies, I want to plug Grown Up Story Time, which is tomorrow night at Rogers at 8 p.m. It's going to be $7 as opposed to $5 because it's the best of Grown Up
Holy
Story Time
moly.
for the past year. That's right. It's the season finale, and it's hosted by friend of the show, Nick Merriweather. It's going going to be so good. Y'all should definitely go check it out. Maybe you'll see us. Maybe you'll get to try those new items on the Rudyard's menu, and you can find me or Ned and tell us what you think about them, because you really want everyone to know what you think about the menu.
Oh, yeah, I told Connor about this earlier. They actually changed the menu. Bummer. But what is it? It's Whataburger now.
Thanks for listening to our show. Very special thanks to James. Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks, James.